to Backpacker Radio, presented by The Trek, brought to you by Sawyer Products. I am your co-host, Zach Badger Davis. Sitting to my right is...
Hi, I'm Juliana Chauncey, a.k.a. Chaunce.
A few reminders before we jump into today's interview. This one's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I am 99.9% sure we're going to be bringing a live podcast to the city of... You got a drum roll? Austin, Texas.
That's right.
We've got almost all of the details in place. Not enough to announce here in the podcast, but looking to be sometime in the dead center of fall. Very excited for this one. Selfishly, we're going to time this up with a college football game. So if you want to narrow the time scope down a little bit. But if you guys want to be sure that you don't miss any notifications of when the announcement for this one goes live, be sure to subscribe to the Trek's newsletter. That's where we put all of the big announcements through, and you're not at the mercy of various social media algorithms, but always encourage you to follow us on all of the channels because we're going to put it out everywhere, but the newsletter is the one that'll make sure that you don't miss it.
Yeah. Very exciting to go to Texas. Austin will be nice. I've never been to
You've never been to Austin?
No.
Oh.
I hear good things.
Definitely go with a taste for meat.
I will.
We're going to be barbecuing our balls off, Joss.
Oh, yes.
It's so much brisket. Brisket every day.
I can't wait. That just makes it even more better.
Yeah. And it looks like we have our guest lined up for that show as well. Somebody we've been trying to get on the podcast for a very long time. Someone that's been recommended many times. Somebody who I knew would be a good guest for the show. So very excited for this one. Subscribe to the Trek's newsletter to make sure that you don't miss it. And it's going to be a very good time. The next one is Patreon.
Mm-hmm. We have a Patreon if you want to support the show. We are providing exclusive content, bonus content for patrons of the show. Just to say a little extra thank you for giving us your support. These are things like bonus content from trail days. If we have a video that's like, oh, Moose Juice is doing a shoey, we should record it and put it somewhere. Or let's play this drinking game, we should record it and put it somewhere. Up to when we have a guest on, if they have something really interesting to talk about and the episode's running long, we will record an extra Patreon episode that has bonus content from them. And those have actually been like really interesting topics. We've gotten a in-depth how-to on self-publishing. We got a very reassuring extra detail bit on Double Magic's adventures.
He's not as crazy as it seems.
No, like falling off a pack raft and nearly dying was terrifying. And then in the Patreon, we find out that he carries a life vest. Yep. So just fun little tidbits like that give supplementary info to episodes or dive into entirely different topics. Like Jabba talked about his experience doing a reality TV show and
Panama.
If that did or did not pan out and all the juicy stuff that... I mean, it's basically like a safe space, right? Like maybe I don't want to say this to 30,000 people on the air, but maybe I want to say it to the privacy of our select group of patrons.
Yeah.
So it's been really fun. We've been fine-tuning what we're putting out there, and it seems to be going really well from the feedback we're getting, but we continue to do more of that, and we're continuing to incorporate more guests into it, and I think it's just becoming a really fun place.
Yeah. And to a very good point that Chauncey made earlier, we do pay our guests for the Patreon episodes. So you guys supporting us helps us to support them. So if you guys also want to help us support our guests, that's a very wonderful way to do that. The last note I've got here before we jump into the interview is that we have a handful of our Backpacker Radio hats available through the Trek store. We have a small supply that didn't sell from AT Trail Days, was very wet if you listen to the previous episode, and they're ready for your domes. So
I will say two of Garrett's friends got the hats at the live podcast and they weren't able to attend. They just saw them and put in an order through Garrett, and they were over our house yesterday, so we gave them to them. And I was just sitting there gloating about the fact that they were talking about how good the quality of the hats were.
Yeah.
I didn't tell them to say that, but they were just saying that when they were looking at them, and I was really pleased. I was like, yeah, they are great quality. Thanks.
Yeah. I've learned in my handful of years in business that it's way better to pay up for the good stuff and not just because some brands will do like the cheap foam hats, and no shade to that, whatever you want to do. But I feel like if we're going to do something, do it right. And these hats are fucking awesome.
Yep.
So, and shout out to Chris Helm, the Trek's designer, for doing a wonderful job on that design. Okay. Let's get to our interview with none other than Katie Oats Houston. We are joined by today's guest. Katie Oats Houston is a solo thru hiker who's completed the AT Colorado Trail, Lone Star Hiking Trail, and most recently the Appalachian High Route. Katie educates audiences on good trail ethics, writes and blogs for the Trek, and was our social media maestro. the title changes every time, but guru, whatever you want to call it, and works as a community manager for Sawyer. Oats, thank you so much for joining us here on Backpacker Radio.
Thanks, guys. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So where do we start? How did you get started at the Trek?
That's a good question. Yeah. So kind of short and condensed how I kind of got into the outdoors.
Did you know Rabbit? Was that the...
I did know Rabbit. I actually applied during COVID through a social media intern position.
Okay.
And I guess you liked the captions that I wrote, and we did a couple months, and it was consistent enough that we just went like consistently part-time after that.
Yeah.
But
I seem to recall Rachel Rabbit saying like, my friend Oats is going to apply, and like getting a referral from a trusted thru hiker is always a good end. So yeah. And obviously you're very talented. We're going to talk about all your work in the outdoor industry as well. But yeah, for anyone listening that wants to break into the outdoor industry, having an in is a nice way in.
Definitely. Yeah. It's a lot of networking for sure. Yeah. Rabbit was very cool. She was going after the Colorado Trail unsupported FKT at the time I was doing it.
Yeah.
So
I don't know the answer to this question. How'd you get your trail name?
Ooh, I got my trail name Oats because my first thru hike I did was the Appalachian Trail in 2019, and I lived with my grandma for the last year I was in college, the year before that. And we would have breakfast every morning, and I would have oatmeal. She would have her Cheerios with various fruits cut up in it. And as I was preparing to leave, she took a bunch of the like brown sugar oat packets and emptied them into like a gallon Ziploc bag and said, "Here for you for the trail." And I said, "Thank you so much." Did not have the heart to tell her I wasn't carrying a stove or the money as a broke college student to turn down free food. So I said, "Thank you." And I think the scene of me at Springer Mountain Shelter with like a broken spoon that I broke that morning during lunch, my first meal on the AT, eating dry oats out of a Ziploc bag was like a sad enough scene that I was deemed Oats from there.
That's before you had the knowledge of cold soaking, presumably, or overnight oats.
I actually don't do either of those.
Okay. Do you still eat dry oats?
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah. Actually, somebody yesterday was like, "Oh, if you're eating with a spoon, you're doing it all wrong. Just rip the package open and like funnel it into your mouth. That's the way to go." And I'm like, I understand. That's exactly what I do now.
Yeah.
Like if my grandma had not emptied them. Yeah, it's a good little snack. I'm very strange. I used to eat like pancake powder as a kid. Like
really?
That was like one of the things that was in my house that nobody would get mad at me for eating if I like
so you like
sought
food
it out
in their pre-cooked forms.
Strangely, yeah.
Are you eating a lot of raw meat?
No, thank God, no. Through wood,
the chickens.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Run through, dog, run.
Yeah, she's obviously very excited.
Sweet, that is a fun trail name, and I can't believe you're still eating raw oats. That's got to be like the chewiest, most al dente, just kind of a bad experience. It seems like it would be for me. I've never tried it.
I mean, I like chugging water, and so that's one of those things that I'll like eat a packet and chug a liter of water. That's one of my favorite like snack breaks. And they're always in hiker boxes. You know, you're going up and down trail. There's always packs of those maple brown sugar oatmeals, and I'm like, great, free food. I'll take that.
Have you ever had the dinosaur egg oatmeal?
I love the dinosaur egg oatmeal.
It is so good.
I live for the dinosaur egg oatmeal.
And the eggs, when they're not mixing it, like if you're dry eating them.
So when I was a kid, that's actually kind of like how I got started eating dry oatmeal was the dinosaur egg.
What is this dinosaur egg?
It used to be found only at Target.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's found now.
Everywhere. You can get dino oatmeal at the grocery store. And the oatmeal has little dinosaur eggs in them. They're white eggs. And when you add the hot water, the egg is like a sugar that melts away. And then what's left is a little dinosaur. And they got little different dinosaurs.
I've obviously had a ton of Quaker oats, but I've never had the dinosaur egg version.
You're missing out.
I have them in my house right now. Like this is something I eat regularly.
This must be after my time, because I feel like if I would have seen this at the grocery store as a kid, this would have been a no-brainer.
It was the best thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad we have that in common.
Me too.
Well, I obviously want to go very deep into the Appalachian High Route, but let's start at the beginning. How did the AT fall on your map?
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, my family was not terrifically outdoorsy. We were my parents figured out very quickly when I started like sleeping in the treehouse my dad had made when I was like 10 through 12. They were like, we gotta get this girl into something outdoorsy. So I was in this nonprofit with aimed at getting kids access to the outdoors. So once a week we would meet after school at a school I didn't go to, but my mom would drive me to because she knew I needed this. And we would like learn how to cook a certain meal or learn some kind of emergency medicine stuff, or how to read a map, how to use a compass, how to tie knots, that kind of thing. And then once a month we would go on a weekend trip. And my first weekend trip was on the Appalachian Trail.
Where?
Oh my God. I truly don't remember. I remember going to Sam's Knob really early on and picking blueberries and putting those in my oatmeal, and seeing a bear in the blueberry patch. And I was hooked. There were maybe 10 other kids on every trip. And we didn't just do backpacking. We did canoeing and rock climbing, and we spent the night in a cave. Like we hiked into a cave and slept in a cave.
Whoa.
It was really, really incredible. They really showed me like what my body can do, and that the outdoors is a place to be enjoyed if you know how to do it safely. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, I know how to backpack 3 or 4 days. So I know how to backpack 6 months, because that's kind of what the Appalachian Trail is. You're going from town to town as long as you know how to resupply. So I told myself I could do it. And after college, that was kind of always the plan. I got a degree in geology from UNC Asheville, did the Appalachian Trail, and then realized I needed to pivot my entire life to continue to do this. So I was living at Woods Hole actually before we met, Zach, and Woods Hole is this beautiful hostel, like a quarter mile off of the Appalachian Trail in Virginia in the backwoods. It's like 80 acres, gorgeous property. If you know Neville Harris, she's fantastic.
Past guest.
Mm-hmm. I was there for a couple of months doing work for stay at the beginning of 2020, and then COVID hit, and the hospitality industry was shut down, and there were 2 other work for stay people there. We had all these chickens that we had freshly introduced to Woods Hole. And you're like, well, we want to not just be hanging out here with not having the hikers. And so we found a camper for sale in Texas, moved to Texas. That's how like the Colorado Trail and the Lone Star Hiking Trail kind of got on my radar, because we lived in Texas for 3 years. My now ex at the time. And last year, that was the Appalachian High Route. That was the first trip that I actually like flew to do the trip and then flew back. It was probably the most planning I've ever put into a route. Mm-hmm. And I did the Long Trail and the Foothills Trail this past year too, which was incredible. Did that with the through dog.
Yeah. I want to go back to the AT, but were you the first one to do the Appalachian High Route? No.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll hop in and talk about it. Why not?
So you were number 1.
I was number 2. I think I was the second person to complete the route. The first person, I wish I could remember her name, but I met her at a Carolina Mountain Club event, but she did it it's a 330 mile trail. I want to say she did it in like 18 days.
Wow.
Or possibly a little faster. It was, she did it very quick in my opinion, especially for a trail that's, it's 135 miles of the Appalachian Trail. It's about 130 miles of the Mountains to Sea Trail. And then it's got some bushwhacking, a couple of trails that just weren't maintained before I had gone through them. And so ended in me kind of crying, navigating between the branches of rhododendrons across the trail. And then there were some road walks, but overall it was on trail. There was, I want to say it's maybe 30 miles of roadwalks total throughout the whole thing. And some of that's on the Blue Ridge Parkway in the Smokies, which is really beautiful. And so it was an incredibly logistically difficult route, to be honest. Both in that I was living in Texas and had to fly and take all of my stuff. And I got very lucky because I have family in Asheville. Like, I think this route was possible for me because I have family in Asheville. I called the Mountains to Sea Trail, Friends of the Mountains to Sea Trail organization, to ask about camping regulations on the trail on the section I would be on for the Appalachian High Route. And they told me there's no camping within a quarter mile of the Blue Ridge Parkway, which makes sense. But then I don't like going more than a quarter mile off trail for any reason, honestly, especially like bushwhacking into the woods. And I was like, I wonder how I could make this so I don't have to do anything like wild with my camping. So like my third day, I did a 24-mile day into my dad's house, because he lives like 2 miles from the Folk Art Center, which is right off of the Mountains to Sea Trail in Asheville. So he got to pick me up. I was 2 miles from his house, got pizza, dropped me off on trail the next day. My grandma got to come bring me ice cream at the Pisgah Inn. My mom resupplied me a Newfound Gap. So I got very lucky for a trail that would have otherwise been even more logistically difficult.
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you don't remember some of it, that's fine. But can you give me the general overview of the Appalachian High Route, where it starts, when it ends? I know you mentioned mileage, cool things it goes through, just like the overview pitch to someone who's never heard of it.
Absolutely. So this is a route that was pioneered by Jennifer Farr Davis a couple years ago in 2022, I believe, because that's the year I hiked it. And her goal was to kind of showcase the Southern Appalachians and all the beautiful high routes. And she's also local to the Southern Appalachians, as I am. And so I kind of felt this kinship when she first kind of announced this route. So I'm sure a lot of your listeners know, but the difference between like a route and a trail is pretty stark sometimes.
Ooh, start there. What's that?
So a trail is more designated. So you can hike from beginning to end. There might be a guidebook about the trail. There might be an organization dedicated to that specific trail. A route is more so somebody connected all of these pieces together, and this is something that you can undertake as a like puzzle piece together trip. So that's kind of what Jennifer Farr Davis did. She pieced together. So I started, it's a loop trail, which I loved. I loved the loop trail aspect of it. But it started and ended for me in Burnsville. You can start and end anywhere. Burnsville, North Carolina. It's a beautiful little mountain town. If you visit, please practice leave no trace, because currently they're like kind of dealing with so many people finding out how incredible like the Black Mountain Crest Trail is near them and all of these hiking resources, and they're having issues with overuse and leave no trace issues. So
is the Black Mountain Crest one of the connector trails for this?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
So I started in Burnsville. There was about 5 miles of beautiful backroad road walking through like the hollers of Appalachia. Then the Black Mountain Crest Trail takes you up to Mount Mitchell. And that was about 12 and a half miles. But if you're looking for a good 12 and a half miles, ooh, that was beautiful. You, the really cool thing about this route is that you pass, in some capacity, you pass all of the peaks over 6,000 feet in like Western North Carolina. Carolina Mountain Club has this big like collect them all challenge. You can hit all the peaks. They don't have trails going up to them, so you have to like make your own trails. So there were a couple that I like made my own trails up to just to kind of, you know, bag the peaks. And then I got kind of tired of bushwhacking, so I just stayed on the trail after that. But Black Mountain Crest Trail is one where I hit like maybe 6,000 footers. Then Mount Mitchell, and then it follows the parkway all the way to Klingeman's Dome. So down through Asheville, through the commuter stretch, which I took all the time in high school to my various jobs. Like I got to walk on the trail that I was playing on as a kid, like as a toddler. Like I got to see the big tree that I used to balance on, and I'd get so scared, and it's like 4 feet off the ground. So it was quite literally a walk down memory lane for me. But then
how marked is the Mountain to Sea Trail through this stretch?
It's very well marked.
Yeah,
very well marked. It follows the Blue Ridge Parkway the whole time. From Mount Mitchell. So before that, it's still pretty easy to navigate. I don't really like road walking, but the road walks were easy. It's like 3 directions, and then you're at the trailhead. You know.
Is it true, if I remember correctly, that the eastern part of the Mountain to Sea Trail is still? Is it a lot of road? What's the knock on the eastern part?
You're absolutely right. Yeah. There's so North Carolina has 3 regions: the mountains, the Piedmont, and the coastal. The mountain region of the Mountains to Sea Trail is mostly on trails. Follows the parkway, totally beautiful, designated, great. The Piedmont and the coastal regions, they are mostly road walks. Okay. However, the coastal region actually has a paddle option at the end. So you can do a couple, I want to say it's a couple 100 miles paddling down a river and then up to the coast and then to the island that it ends on in the Outer Banks.
That's fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I derailed you. So we're in Asheville on the Mountain to Sea Trail.
We just saw the nice tree.
Yeah, continue this
beautiful
journey.
tree.
Yeah.
Continue your 135 miles on the Mountain to Sea Trail. Eventually get down to the Smokies. Travel through the Smokies off of the Appalachian Trail, which was the first time I'd been in the Smokies off of the Appalachian Trail. And I went up to Clingman's Dome, and that's where it connects with the Appalachian Trail. Well, it connects a little bit before that, but I went back to go see it. It was just a couple miles that it actually like loops, but Clingman's a worthy blue blaze in my opinion. So then you hop on the Appalachian Trail, continue up until past Max Patch, another about 135 miles. And then after Max Patch, I can't remember exactly like how many miles, but about 30 miles from the end, 25 miles from the end of the trip, like back into Burnsville, that's where the road walks in the like not very well maintained trails were. And at the time, I think Jennifer had actually talked to the local trail maintaining clubs and was saying like, they were on the radar of the clubs to fix up because now there are going to be more people there potentially. And they just hadn't gotten there yet. So hopefully the Devil's Creek Trail and the Lost Cove Trail, it was only a couple miles, but that was the slowest hiking. And especially on the last day where I was doing like the 23 miles, I was meeting Jake Blood, who also founded the route at the brewery in Burnsville at like 5 o'clock. So I was like, road walking, 3 miles an hour, of course. And then those rhododendrons hit me and I was like, So, yeah. And the road walking on that stretch was actually not my favorite. The worst road walking I've ever had was in the Lone Star Hiking Trail in Texas. Lots of off-leash dogs that think that the road is also theirs and come after you.
Zach loves that trail.
Yeah, it's the best trail in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Appalachian High Route you said was 380 miles?
330.
330. Okay. What's it like elevation wise? How much, like, let's say, is a 20-mile day fair to say, or should we say 15?
You can go back and forth. So when I said I had to like plan out logistically pretty well, I did kind of have to plan around where am I allowed to camp, like what sections am I allowed to camp on. And the Mountains to Sea, Friends of the Mountains to Sea Trail has some awesome guides for the Mountains to Sea Trail. It has all of the information about like what mile markers you're allowed to camp at and you're not, and guidelines to kind of adhere to. And that being said, you kind of have a little bit of everything. The woman who did it before me, she was doing like 30-mile days, and that's why she was able to shave off like so many days. And I did some 15s. I want to say 3 over 20, but definitely no marathons.
How does the Mountain to Sea Trail compare to the AT portion of it?
In my opinion, it's easier graded.
Yeah.
Like kind of like people say the West Coast trails have the grades are taken into account and they will switch back it. Yeah. They don't do that, but it is generally more gradual than the Appalachian Trail in my opinion. And the Appalachian Trail through the Smokies is just the Appalachian Trail through the Smokies.
Yeah.
I had characteristically terrible weather, which is exactly what I had on my time going through on the AT. So, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to follow back. So what kind of elevation gain are you seeing a day? Is it like 4,000 feet of climb, 5,000?
I don't remember.
More or less than the AT? Or about the same?
I would say about the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
How friendly are what's the spacing like for campsites on the Mountain to Sea Trail? Because you said it's designated camping only. Like, what's the typical distance between campsites?
I would say between 8 and 12 miles, kind of like shelters on the AT.
Sure.
And it's not necessarily designated sites only, but it's like you can only camp between these mile markers, and it's 2 miles and there are no good sites.
Yeah.
And so you gotta like
get creative.
Yeah. There were several times I had to get pretty creative.
Yeah.
And at the time I had a Z-Pax Altiplex, which was just a 1-stake trekking pole tent, a little 1-person. Mm-hmm. And it was my first time I had taken that tent out, and I couldn't sit up straight in it. And because it was a trekking pole tent, if you're not on very flat ground, it doesn't pitch very well. So I had a rough time getting used to that for the first couple days.
Would this be a good spot for a hammock camper? Do you always have access to trees?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great point. Lots of trees.
Yeah.
Very forested, very Appalachian.
Yeah, right. It seems like if you're designated to a certain area and the campsites aren't ideal. That's like tailor-made for a good hammock situation.
Yeah. What about the towns? Walk me through what towns you'll pass through and can resupply out of.
Totally. There's Burnsville. That's, one of the options you have. Because it's a loop, you can kind of do whatever you want. But the 4 places that you can kind of pick up a resupply on that trail are the Qualla Boundary, the Cherokee, kind of near the Smokies, like right near the gateway, on the Mountains to Sea Trail. So you can go into Cherokee. You can go into Asheville. You can go into Burnsville. And I do remember there being one more, and I cannot remember what it was because I didn't need it. I did
Is it Hot Springs? Because you mentioned Max Patch.
It was Hot Springs.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I remembered not needing it, and I couldn't remember why. But
Yeah.
I blew through Hot Springs.
Yeah. How long does that little connector section take? Because you mentioned that's where the road walking and the bushwhacking is. That's slow going, I imagine.
I did that in one day.
Okay.
I saved everything after the Appalachian Trail, getting me into Burnsville. That was all one day.
Yeah. And what's the distance on that little connector?
It was like 25 miles.
Okay. That must have been a long day with the bushwhacking.
Yeah. The trails themselves were like 1 to 2 miles, or like 2 max. I think they were each maybe 2. So it was like 4 miles of bushwhacking and then road walking. Wasn't much side to the road. As I got closer to town, there were more people. It was pretty curvy. So it wasn't the safest I felt on road walks. And it was fine. I was always able to, get off. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
If you could do it again, or you were talking to a friend about hiking it, would you maybe advocate that they just maybe hitch that last little road section? Or I guess somebody that doesn't feel comfortable walking on road with a slim shoulder, is that a good option?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You're not missing anything huge by skipping road walks ever, in my opinion. Yeah, that's totally personal choice. It would have felt bad to me to skip that because I felt like I wanted to finish the thing, and start and end where I did. But I'm not a purist.
Yeah. There were a couple of times when I did a chunk of the Oregon Coast Trail where we were doing the road walking, and I'm like, this is stupid. Like, if the hitch was easy, I would gladly take the hitch, and I have no qualms about that because, like, this is not the way that I want to die, and I'm not enjoying this. Like, just get me to where I'm going, and then give me some fun, enjoyable hiking.
We can cut this if the answer is I don't know, but with the geology degree that you have, do you know much about the land that you're going through on this trail?
That is such a good question.
Thanks.
I went to school in Asheville, and so all of the regional geology stuff that I learned was about the Southern Appalachians.
Hey, tell me about it.
Oh my gosh. Do you guys want me to blow your mind?
Yes.
The Appalachian Mountains are not as old as you think they are. They're not the oldest mountains in the world. So basically, this is going to be a lot of annoying technical stuff for a second, but Pangea, the supercontinent. The one before that was Gondwana land. So the continents have been coming together and moving apart in a cycle since the world was made. And so Gondwana land, when it pushed together, it made these huge, crazy mountain ranges. And then it came apart, came together again. I might be screwing this up. Hang on.
Wasn't it? It was Rodinia. It was like the grandpa of Pangea.
Yeah, Gondwana land is the one. Oh yeah.
Rodinia that was
is
when
the one that's
Grenville
the grandfather.
orogeny happened.
Yeah. It's been a while since college now that I'm actually like talking about it. But from what I remember, my teacher getting really excited about and being like, "Tell all of your friends this," was the Appalachian Mountains were actually after the I want to say, I don't remember which supercontinent building it was. They were eroded flat for a very long period of time. So they would not be considered a mountain range anymore. They were eroded like to sea level. And what has been happening recently is the Farallon Plate, like on the West Coast, that's causing all of the earthquakes in the San Andreas Fault. That's subducting under the country. And it's at such a shallow angle that it's starting to melt, like under the Southern Appalachians, under the crust. And that's making little magma pockets pop up, and it's pushing our mountains up. So they're actually getting a little bit bigger every year, and the structures inside of them, like the rocks, Rowan Mountain has 2.4 billion year old rocks on it. I actually got to do a mile-long geologic map of the Mountains to Sea Trail. Like, it was my research area for undergraduate research, so got to make a big geologic map of that.
Yeah. Wait, so magma underneath the Appalachians, does that mean we'll eventually get an Appalachian volcano?
It depends on what keeps happening with the Farallon plate. Yeah.
Let's
I
check
mean,
the
there's
forecast.
magma all over, like underneath the ground everywhere. There's magma.
But if
right?
it's,
Yeah.
if it's,
It's popping
actually causing
up.
the mountains to pop up, I feel like eventually
Yeah.
it's got like a zit, just got to pop.
yeah.
That's how rocks work, right?
Yeah, that's
They're
how
just
rocks
zits.
work.
Yeah.
The Mount Mitchell volcano is about to erupt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of at-me's for this one, but
No, that's okay.
Good. I like the spicy takes. So you are from Asheville. That's one of the trail towns. Give us a few of the highlights. Somebody hiking through on the Appalachian High Route or the Mountain to Sea Trail, same difference. What are the things they should hit up? Best breweries, whatever it might be.
Gosh, the stuff that's immediately on the trail. You already mentioned Hot Springs. That's an amazing little trail town. It goes right past the Pisgah Inn, which is maybe 20 miles south of Asheville. Beautiful inn on the top of a mountain on the Blue Ridge Parkway. That's where my grandma met me, and we got ice cream together, and they brought me a resupply. I live like a couple miles away from Highland Brewing Company. If you've ever been there, that's fantastic. If you're actually flying into Asheville, Sierra Nevada Brewing is amazing.
Is Highland where we hosted our meetup?
I don't know.
What's the one that has like 3 breweries in town? Is that Highland?
They have like an outdoor
Yes.
picnic
Yeah.
table.
Yeah, that place is awesome.
Yeah, that
place
was
is
really
great.
good. Yeah, that was it.
The beer there was spectacular.
My dad and I could theoretically walk home from there.
Oh wow.
Stumble home.
Exactly. Yeah, not so much in practice.
Yeah, right.
But there's contra dancing in Asheville if you're looking for a little bit of culture at Warren Wilson every Thursday night. Old Farmer's Ball. That's amazing. You might see Warren Doyle or Jennifer Vardamus hanging out there.
John's got the lesson last year.
Oh, fun.
I danced with Warren.
Oh my gosh,
I
we
know.
should dance.
Okay, we could
dance. Cool. Yeah, all kinds of great stuff. Those are the ones that are really coming to mind now. Mount Mitchell is another like incredible destination in the Southern Appalachians. Just the highest point.
I want to go back to Asheville. Best restaurant.
Best restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay,
Are you
listen.
vegetarian?
No.
Okay.
I'm not a foodie, and I think my answers they're gonna be my answers, and they're
Yeah.
gonna be funny.
That's all I'm asking.
Celebrity hot dogs.
Celebrity hot dogs?
It's my dad and I's favorite. We go every time we're in town. It's a drive down the parkway from us.
Yeah.
It's owned by former NASCAR race car driver Robert Presley, who is also our former Buncombe County Commissioner. He knows me and my dad by name and our orders.
What's your order?
2 chili cheese dogs, and I will eat both of them before my dad finishes his single with mustard.
Ooh,
Are you
impressive.
a big eater?
I love hot dogs.
And
Yeah.
you're not gonna you can eat 2 that fast, and you're not gonna join our butter eating
You're
contest.
shocked that I can eat 2 hot dogs but won't eat 2 sticks of butter.
Yes,
Same, basically.
Yeah.
they're the same shape.
Yeah.
You know, I'll reconsider.
Yes.
Okay, so the hot dog joint, anything else stand out?
J&F's cafeteria is also very silly. It's like an old person's cafeteria. And I've been going there since I was a toddler. And I've been getting the same thing there. There have been the same people there for decades. It caught fire during COVID and they rebuilt. And it's still amazing. These are like
Nice.
the staples of the community that I'm like, I hope those are there in another 2 decades.
Yeah.
What's your order there?
A veggie plate. So I get 3 of the veggies. Usually that means mac and cheese, which clearly is a vegetable.
I love this place.
sweet potatoes and green beans. So I like make a Thanksgiving dinner and I get a roll. And the best thing they have is the chocolate cream pie. The chocolate cream pie is incredible. I always get a slice when I'm there, but I have been obsessed with it forever. And my parents are divorced. So I was in college and it was my birthday one time. My dad got me a chocolate cream pie for my birthday. My mom got me a chocolate cream pie for my birthday. And my roommates got me a chocolate cream pie for
Oh
my
my
birthday.
God.
So I ate all of them within the span of a week. Because I'm strong.
Yeah. That was my highlight of my birthday this year is Garrett's parents got a chocolate cake, and like none of them are big cake people. So over the course of the week and a half we were with them, I ate the entire cake. And I was like, hi,
amazing.
thanks for welcoming me to your family. I ate the entire cake.
My roommate is a baker. She's an incredible baker. And her rule is that me and my other roommate, we are not allowed to have any of the delicious baked goods that she has made until we have put at least 1 vegetable in our body that day.
Ooh, that's mean. That's mean. But mac and cheese is a vegetable, we just learned.
You're absolutely right.
There we go. Back in business.
Yeah.
Yeah. So would you advocate for this trail that somebody is interested in the Appalachian region? Is this one you'd recommend?
It's absolutely one I'd recommend for an experienced hiker, like a through hiker that like knows how to do a long distance trail. Like even if you've done a week, you could probably do this one. Like give yourself 3 weeks or 4 or 5 if you really want to like soak it in.
Best time of the year?
Fall. I did it during fall.
Would you say not for a first time hiker then?
I would say not for a first time hiker. There are sections of it that you should absolutely do as a first time hiker. The Black Mountain Crest Trail, 12.5 miles. Point to point. You could even go back and double it for, a weekend adventure.
What specifically makes you say not for a first time hiker?
The logistics, like in navigating the camping situation, like doing everything by the book. Like if you're really trying, because I was planning on writing a trail profile for this trail when I did it. And so I was really intentional about doing everything by the book because I clearly I didn't want to advocate anything that wasn't like leave no trace or that the trail organizations wouldn't support. So it was just a lot of logistics. It took a lot of planning on my part. And I think there are other through hikes that are way more accessible for somebody that's starting, like the Foothills Trail or through dog. You want to come here?
I love this dog so much. Watch us on YouTube, guys. If you're not on YouTube, you're missing prime dog content.
She's a pretty good dog.
Back to you.
In terms of navigating, are you using Far Out maps? What's the go-to?
On the Mountains to Sea Trail, I was using a PDF. I became a member and you get all of their guides for all the different segments. The Appalachian High Route is segments 1 through 3. So I just got those 3 PDFs, took screenshots of them on my phone, went off of that. And then on the AT, I did use Far Out. When I did the AT originally, I actually had the book, the big guide book.
AWOL's guide? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I've since turned into a Far Out girly, and it was great for the AT. And then after that, everything that was kind of off trail, I actually used Caltopo. So that's another, it was kind of difficult logistically. Jake Blood, who made the route with Jennifer Farr Davis, sent me the GPX track for the trail that he had gotten himself. And I put it onto Caltopo. It's actually accessible. Like if you go to the Appalachian High Route post that I made for the trek, it's accessible and you can download it yourself.
Sweet.
But I had that app on my phone and that at least gave me an idea of, am I on the right road? Roughly how many more miles do I have? So, yeah.
Are there plans to get the portion that's on the road onto trail?
Not on the Appalachian High Route.
Okay.
If it was going to be a more designated trail, they would probably have more of a lift, but it would be a huge lift. That was definitely the easiest thing that JPD could find. But yeah, if you don't want to do it, do a little hitch, do a little yellow blazing.
And I assume, obviously, she's done the AT a number of times. I believe she's done the Mountain to Sea Trail. So she just has she done the connector portion? Because you mentioned that only one other person had done it prior to you.
Oh, that's through hiking. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, to qualify, that's through hiking. JPD had finished section hiking it and had done all of it, just not all at once. So she had done the connectors and stuff.
Yeah.
Hence why she said she had talked to the trail clubs about fixing up those trails that hadn't been used as much. Give them a little bit of love.
Yeah. Any particular reason behind the clockwise version of the hike? Is there any advantage to doing it clockwise versus counter?
So I did it that direction because as I was figuring out what my days would look like, what my itinerary might look like, it made the most sense for the resupplies. So I ended up resupplying once in Asheville, once at Pisgah Inn, once at Newfound Gap, and once in Hot Springs, and that was it.
Is there a hiker hostel in Asheville?
I believe there is. I don't think it's considered a hiker hostel.
Just a hostel.
Just a hostel. Yeah. There was one years ago that was like the Jumping Bean or something. I don't know what it is nowadays. I'm sure it's changed since I've moved.
Yeah.
Everything's changing fast.
Yeah.
Brain. Sorry.
Work on that.
Brain
truly.
was working. Now it paused.
I'm gonna
Please go.
Yeah, no. It's been.
I found it. I got it.
It's been a
Brain's
long
back.
week
Brain's
for
back.
both of us.
There's just an Asheville thought, and then my brain froze in the middle of it. Happens. I had a lot of brain freeze last night. So if you are in Asheville and you are doing this and you are going to Asheville, this is just like a me personal plug. There's a honey shop on the main road that I'm obsessed with. And fun fact, the lavender honey they have in this honey shop comes from Sarah Decker's farm.
Yeah.
Past
Former
guest.
Yep.
Yeah. So always like to shout out her. That lavender honey is so good. So if you are doing this and you do go to Asheville, stop at the honey shop I forgot the name of it, but it's on the main strip, and get the lavender honey.
Yeah. Sarah's Farm does awesome stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Their jam. Ooh, if I see her this week, I'm going to shake her down for
Oh my
some
God,
jam.
I hope she gives us more jam.
Yeah, she got
always
this
brings us a
bear's
goodie.
ears jam, something like that. It's like, whew.
I need to ask her
I give
how
it to my
long
mom
it
for
lasts.
Mother's Day.
I still have some in my fridge, and I like still go to use it, but I was waiting to ask her if it's still okay because I got it last year. But I'm like, does jam go bad?
I think she told me as long as there's not mold on it, it's fine.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Jam aside.
That's jam talk.
Yeah. So you lived in Texas for how long?
About 3 years.
3 years. And I know you hiked everything that could be hiked out there.
Yeah, the stuff that was close to me. Yeah. I was living in a camper during COVID. And so for a couple months, we just drove up to Colorado, and my partner at the time was supporting me while I did the Colorado Trail. So I didn't have to go into like small communities or like resupply at stores and stuff. So that was very cool. Very fortunate to be able to do that. And then the next year I had a death in the family, and I was trying to process that. And I had 1 week, and I was like, well, and a car. And I said, well, there's 100 miles over there. I guess I'm going to go do that. And it was good. It was exactly what I needed. You know, it's kind of how I process stuff, like being out in the woods with a big old hike.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people will go to a long trail when they have some things they have to think through. I've met a lot of people who will go to a long trail to figure stuff out that then get so caught up in the fun of the trail that when we get to the end of the trail, they're like, I never actually thought about any of this stuff. Do you have tips for someone who starts a trail with that mindset of I want to think through these things on how to find the time to do that when everything else can be so like getting you wrapped up in?
What a wonderful question, especially
Thanks.
like on the East Coast where the Appalachian Trail is such a social trail, which is wonderful, and it's not necessarily experience everyone's after. So I started in February because I did not want to be in the bubble, and there was still I was still tenting every night because there wasn't room in the shelters. I love hiking alone. Solitude for me, I'm a people pleaser, and being out in the woods without all the people, that's my jam.
You get to please you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm the only person to please.
Yeah.
And the amount of anxiety that just melts away when it's just me or me and my dog is unlike anything else. I don't experience that anywhere else. And I also have ADHD. And so it's difficult for me to like keep a thought and finish it. And when I'm walking, I figured out walking and driving are both kind of the perfect mix of my brain isn't fully like needed here and my body is occupied. And so my mind can start and finish a thought.
I'll fill notebooks. If I drive from Colorado to New York, I had to stop and buy sticky notes because I was like writing things and putting them on the dash because it was just like thoughts that would go away.
You should
if
see
I
my
didn't get them
table in
down.
my camper. Yeah, I have
same
sticky
thing with
notes
hiking.
everywhere.
It would take forever because I'd pull up the notes pad and I'd have to sit down and like write down all the thoughts. Otherwise, they'd just be gone. You know, I absolutely feel that. So do you, like, let's say I'm someone that likes to hike with people, but I do have stuff I want to sort through. How do you find the time for that? Like, how do you prioritize that?
The first whole half of the trail, I was a solo hiker, but I camped with people. I actually didn't have my first night alone until like over halfway through. And that was really good for me personally. And like I was also super extroverted. And so I needed the time on trail to do the like introspection, and then being in town, I kind of went a little buck wild sometimes. And, you know, I kind of overpour enthusiasm when I meet people that get me excited. So I met a lot of people that got me excited on trail. And so being at the shelters and stuff, that pacing was perfect for my social battery. And now that's different. Like my relationship with hiking has changed now. And so it's, I prefer camping alone. But even after like 2/3 of the way through the AT, I met somebody, I had a trail romance. And so we were together the entire rest of the trail. So I didn't have any alone time, but I felt like I had already done 1,100 miles by myself. And that was all I needed. I was ready for the company, you know, even when I was hiking. And New England is kind of sketchy. So I kind of enjoyed having another physical person there with me.
First of all, give us on a 5-star scale the rating for the Lone Star Trail.
Like a 2.
Okay.
Maybe.
It's more than Zach would give it.
It's a Lone Star.
Oh, I missed the joke.
No, it's all good. Give us the elevator pitch on why someone should hike the Lone Star Trail.
Basically convince Zach why he should do it again and not quit on the first day because of how much it sucks.
You quit on the first day? Where did you
two.
start?
It was day 2.
Did you start?
Started at the western side. Was doing it with Jabba and actually Jersey from Gossamer Gear. And we just quit because there was a 36-hour storm coming in, and we weren't enjoying the trail enough to like sit through a day and a half worth of downpour. So yeah, it was an easy decision.
I would have given anything to see trail that flat when I was on the Appalachian Trail for 50 feet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But when it's 100 miles of flat, your body is like, quit.
Yeah.
Anything else. Like walk
that is a
up,
good point.
walk
yeah,
down.
It's almost hard in a way because you get to work different muscles climbing and descending.
Exactly.
When you're on flat, it's just so repetitive.
Exhausting.
Yeah.
Physically, for my body, it was exhausting.
Yeah.
I did it in 4 days and I was out of shape. It's like 100 miles. So that was a push for me. But again, I was processing a death in the family. And so I really it was there when I needed it. Like as I'm going to pound this trail out and be out in the woods. I had a magical start to it, honestly, because they had just finished a prescribed burn in Sam Houston National Forest. And so the first 6 miles, it was all freshly burned. And there were logs that were still smoking, and the smoke was coming up from the ground and creating this beautiful effect between the trees and the sky. It was so magical. And so I think I rode that high for a while. I will say the Lone Star Hiking Trail is where I got really scared of thunderstorms. I believe the governor of Texas at the time was in a wheelchair because he was trail running and was struck by a falling branch and paralyzed.
Is Texas a stormy state? I guess it's part of the tornado alley, so that makes sense.
Is it?
Isn't it?
I don't know.
I think there's a lot of tornadoes in Texas.
I also don't know.
Yeah, I think that's just North Texas.
I never saw any tornadoes. I had the terrible winter storm a couple years ago, and then it liked having thunderstorms. There were a couple minimal flooding incidences. Colorado, I experienced much more severe storms.
Yeah.
Are there trees in the Lone Star Trail? Because in my brain, I picture it as like a blank sheet of paper. Like it's flat and there's nothing there.
No, it's totally forest.
Actually,
it's really beautiful pine forest in some sections. It's interesting. There's a lot of different environments you hike through. That's one of the things I actually kind of liked about it. There's maybe 5 different environments. There's bog, and there's lake, and there's pine forest, and there's old forest, and then you're walking on service roads through agricultural fields. Somebody's riding by on a horse. A little bit of everything. Eastern Texas is actually quite beautiful. I'm not crazy about 80% of Texas, but I could get down with those 5 pine forests.
Listeners from Texas are going to hate me for these takes. I mainly know Texas from driving through it. So I know from driving through, and I usually drive through the top part on my way somewhere else. So forgive me for coming at it from this bias. But when I drive through Texas the ways that I have, oftentimes you're passing cow or pig farms, and it has the smell that you can't unsmell. Is this a smelly trail?
It is not a smelly trail. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm trying to say it kindly.
It's not in this region.
Okay.
I feel like there's dairy farms in Virginia too that are on the main highway, and you drive past and you're like, oh, I'm at that point in the drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not on the Lone Star Trail. Okay. Actually, no big industry anywhere along the trail. I also didn't resupply, which I kind of liked about the trail because I didn't have to think about it. Just carry everything. Lots of dogs though. Boy, I am a dog lover, and I do not like seeing dogs on trail that are not on leashes.
Yeah, that's scary.
It's terrifying. I've been bit by dogs before, and so I'm just I get a stick, and I'm like, oh, no, you're going to stay over there?
Yeah.
Well, for hiking from home, when I was researching that, one of the things that was interesting is people worry about people in the backcountry. People are afraid of other people, and they're afraid of animals like grizzlies, mountain lions, that sort of thing. And the most dangerous thing is dogs, which you don't expect. But yeah, when you're on far out, I've had this happen on a couple of trails, and you check one of the notes and you see dog, around this area that's, kind of aggressive. That's pretty scary.
The Lone Star Hiking Trail guide has in all capital letters in red, dogs on road at one section. And it's because they're aggressive dogs on the road.
So do you carry mace? What do you do?
No, I don't. After I got bit by a dog, I started carrying pepper spray, but I've never had to use it. I just have my trekking pole. What I tell myself, like, my protection in the backcountry is my trekking poles in my mind. Like, that is what packing my fears means to me in self-defense. And I always have this like scene from the 300, like, this is Sparta movie, where the guy is like 8 and he has to go hunt a wolf, and the wolf like jumps at him and he's holding this big spear out. And that's,
that's you and the dog.
That's me. I'm like, if I just hold it, they won't be able to get at me, right?
Like a kebab.
Yeah, and there's no problems with my logic. I'm sure of it.
Dog.
Yeah.
I have to prove myself right, but Tornado Alley, it's about a third to half of the state.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Water.
Did you also do? Oh,
sorry, I thought you were gonna for longer.
No, I'm ready to go past the Lone Star Trail.
Okay.
I think we've talked enough about it, but I do want to talk. You've done Big Bend, right?
I traveled to Big Bend last year.
Okay.
I was going to do the Guadalupe High Route, which is from Carlsbad Caverns to Guadalupe Peak.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of northwest Texas. But God, what was it? There was one fall that I got fired out. There was like fire going on, and so they had to close the whole trail through Carlsbad. And then I went back in the spring for my birthday 2 years ago, and it was flooded out, and the trail was totally closed, and they had no idea when they were going to reopen.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to explore Big Bend. So I
Yeah.
did that. Saw some bears, saw a bunch of javelina, had an incredible time.
Yeah.
Is a javelina like a coyote and a hyena?
It's javelinas would get so mad at me for saying this, but it's like a pig. It's like a hog.
Oh.
Yeah, big black hog.
Are they aggressive?
No.
Asterisks?
So I had never seen a javelina, and so we get to the Rio Grande campsite, and it's this beautiful like meadow nestled on the Rio Grande with all of these woods around it, and there was a sign taped to the picnic table that said "Caution Javelinas," and I was like, okay, sure. And it gets to be like 9:00, and my partner and I are sitting on the table talking, and we start to see all of these like shadows start to like move across the campsite, and it's like 24 big javelinas just grazing, slowly moving through the campsite.
Do they have little horns?
I think so.
Tusks?
I think so. I can't remember exactly, but
They're somewhere between cute and scary,
yeah,
like the midpoint.
yeah.
Where is cute?
Oh,
It looks like
look
the
at
warthog from. It looks like Pumbaa.
I'm scarred from the Ozark Highlands Trail seeing the pictures of those hogs, so I'm kind of just like hog scared.
Yeah.
Hog
If I
version.
was a young warthog.
Clip that, Polly.
I-
So you see these?
I didn't want to detract us from. Sorry, go ahead. You were in the middle of a question.
You see these hogs walk by? I was just steering us back.
Yeah, do it.
So you see these hogs walk by?
There isn't much more to the story.
Okay. I'll use that.
They terrified me. I did see somebody walk to the bathroom across the very dark campsite, and they did not see the javelinas and didn't have a light, and she practically ran straight into one.
Oh
And
my
I was
God.
like watching it happen like 100 feet away. That was my entertainment for the night.
Oh.
She was fine.
I was gonna say if you wanted to go back to the Lone Star Trail, I don't want to
Oh, no, that's
cockblock
okay.
you from Lone Star
It's
questions.
too late now.
Okay.
I'm not going to hike it.
Yeah. I think a subject that is going to be of interest to many listeners is you are the ultimate hustler in the outdoor industry.
Yeah.
And would love to get some best tips for somebody that wants to break in or somebody that is in that wants to level up. Like I can speak from a perspective of having worked with you is you're excellent at synthesizing a lot of things, and this probably comes from your ADHD, because I think I see this in myself a little bit as well, is just grabbing things from different areas and synthesizing it and creating a whole new thing. You do that very well, and you are a huge asset to the trek. I'm sure you're doing amazing work with Sawyer on that front. I don't track it as closely because obviously I don't work there, but I'd be just generally curious to know what tips you'd offer to somebody that wants to break out in the outdoor industry.
I want to piggyback on that
Or
real
break
quick,
in.
because one thing I also think, asterisks on what Zach said, is another like big added thing to what stands out about when I see your stuff, is that I feel like everything you do is so genuine. Like even when you're making the videos for Sawyer, like everything comes across as like who you're seeing is who you're getting, you know? And I think doing all that in that way, like there's a way to do it where like you could just be like, I want to take on everything. I want to make as much money as I can. I want to do this and that. But the way you do it is so genuine and just like your personality comes through. And I think the way you go about it is really good too.
That's really kind.
So back to Zach's question.
That's very kind. I feel like I need to recover from
Drink your beer.
Oh my.
from getting complimented. It's interesting because I don't have a degree in this, right? Like I don't have a degree in writing. I was almost an English major in college, but my first studies and fiction class I took freshman year, I didn't read any of the books. So it's like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be doing English. I mean, a lot of it was networking. A lot of it was just meeting people and being genuinely interested in them and keeping up relationships with people and following through on the things that you say you're going to do and not biting off more than I can chew, which is always kind of a struggle, as I'm sure you guys know personally. But honestly, personally, it feels like I've stumbled into my dream job and I've like kind of Sorry, I haven't done too much reflecting on this, to be honest.
You're getting a little emotional. Not in a bad way, but I'm just like noticing that.
Yeah. I feel like because I don't have a degree in this, I had no like marketable skill that when I started with Zach, I was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. Like, we'll see what I have to offer. I'm going to like try and write some interesting captions. And that started going well. And I said, oh, I wonder what else I can do. What else seems interesting? And then I thought of a silly little short form video where I jump into different clothes and pick up Through Dog and go on a hike. And I just started seeing things that other people, I really look to other people. I see things that other people are doing, whether they have stories to share that I also want to help them share, which is like my favorite thing. Like I love figuring out what people are sickos about. Yeah. I do. I love figuring out what people are like grossly passionate about. And through hiking, that just seems to be overflowing. Like I feel like the industry just called me in that way. I'm just like overflowing with it too. And I think that has kind of overflowed into my work, like that I actually really do genuinely enjoy it. And I also really have been working on my mental health the last couple of years. I realized that this is my like shot, like in the outdoor industry. And I don't want to blow it. I don't want to screw it up, you know? Like before this, I was working like $9 an hour jobs, $12 an hour jobs, after a couple years of raises, you know, and overtime and no benefits, and being in a place where people actually like value the things I'm saying and the stories I'm sharing, like that other people have, is just the biggest blessing that I could possibly imagine. I think I'm still starstruck, like by all of it, if that's coming through at all. I'm shocked that this is where my life has ended up, and I'm just trying to hold on to it.
Yeah. I remember, I think it was either Travis or Andrew emailed me asking if I had any ins with anyone who was good at social media. And I knew at the time that we didn't have a budget for a full-time person. So I'm like, you can have Katie. Yeah. So that was maybe the most generous thing I've ever done, was offering you, because you're amazing, but I didn't want to hold you back. Like, you're a rocket ship pointed to the atmosphere, and yeah, I'm glad that you landed with a good company.
That's so kind. Thank you.
We were talking about like base camp and things like that on the drive over here, which is vague for the listener who might not know what that is. But can you talk about like leading up to getting the job with Sawyer? What are different ways that a person could find work available in this industry if they say, hey, I would love to do this, but in my brain, and this is me projecting, in my brain, and this is also what I thought when I was leaving college, without a degree, all that's available is summer camps and ski resorts.
Yeah. Writing was a huge skill in my tool set. I had some incredible teachers in high school. I loved writing, like AP English, those 40-minute persuasive essays. Ooh, I could knock those out all day. And so that was something that just kind of like drew me in. So I literally started cold emailing companies. I cold emailed Hiker Hunger, and they sent me some trekking poles, and I wrote them an article about bouncing back from injury on the AT because I got Achilles tendonitis and was off trail for a few weeks. And I just like wrote about what I knew and gave some pictures that I thought would look good. And they said, great, and sent me some stuff. And I said, great. And literally just one step at a time from there, reaching out to companies that I actually did believe in. Some reached out to me, and for whatever reason, those ones don't seem to pan out as well as the ones that I like know I have the energy to engage with. Hyperlight is one of my favorite brands to work with. They have a really good content creator, like creative team and process in the track. And cold emailing, as long as you actually do the thing you say you're going to do, like make the pitch that you're excited about, write the thing, be excited about it, be enthusiastic about the thing that you're writing, and it'll show. That's great advice for people going into writing, as well as like any kind of creative medium in the outdoors. Truly, just start doing it. You might surprise yourself how good you are. Or how appropriately you fit into all of these puzzle pieces.
I obviously see the social work you do with Sawyer. I imagine you're doing a lot more behind the scenes. Walk us through, what is your typical week at Sawyer?
Oh my, yeah. So I'm the community manager at Sawyer. I manage all of our social media accounts. So if anybody needs any back flushing tips, you know where to find me. But I also manage our blog. So I work with our creative team. We have maybe 30 to 40 creators in the Sawyer squad. That's kind of our like community at large. We compensate for our blog. We compensate for short form video content that's created for us. And that's a lot of my job, is like meeting and talking and relationships and creators. Another part is organizations. So I get to meet with trail organizations and folks that are requesting like either gear donations for their own hiking closet, like if they're an outreach group or something like that, or for raffle donations, like the Mountains to Sea Trail has an annual fundraiser coming up, and we donate a pack of our best sellers so they can raffle it off, So lots of relationships. That's kind of the whole job. When I started, we didn't really know what this job was going to look like.
Yeah.
And I think something I love about working with a team as small as Sawyer is that we can all wear different hats, but I don't feel pressure to take on more than I can handle, which I feel like in a lot of those positions where like, I'm a jack of all trades, I can do all these things, you are setting yourself up to get taken advantage of. And I do not feel that with Sawyer.
Yeah.
So that's actually a great segue. And I don't mean this specifically for Sawyer alone, but you do a lot of work with a lot of different brands. You just mentioned Hyperlight, for example, as another one. For someone going into something like this without industry experience, it can be hard to know your worth, because like, what is the price on certain things, right? So in your experience, if someone was to want to get into blogging or writing or anything like that, do you have any tips? And I face this a lot because I have brands reach out for me to do partnerships. And oftentimes when they reach out, it's like, we'll send you this $20 piece of gear in exchange for you doing this. And I read an email to Zach that I fired off yesterday that was just all salt, no breaks.
Nice.
And it was just like, this takes advantage of me and my deliverables and like doesn't even account for anything and only profits the brand. Like, I sent off a really fiery email. And I'm not saying for people to do that, but just to give an idea, like when I'm coming into an industry that I don't have experience in and I don't have background in, I don't know what to expect or what I should expect for what's fair. How does a person know what's fair for a blog post or what's fair for this, with all of your experience across different things? Can you give us some industry standards for what a person could or should expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So something that was really always exciting to me was $250 a blog post. Like, that was always so reasonable, and it felt like I was being appreciated, and I can knock a blog post out like that. So that always felt like a good like stake in the ground for me personally, as I was like getting my like freelance side of things together. I think the best thing I ever did for the Know Your Worth side of it is taking Justine Malintz's freelance boot camp. It was like 12 weeks, and once a week you meet over Zoom and you have homework and you have different themes for every week, but it's basically deciding what services you want to offer. How do you offer those services? How much do you charge for those services? Do you need a contract? What kind of clients are you looking for? It's all of that. And it's in a very safe place. Like I believe it was the first freelance boot camp that she had held that I was a part of. And there were 12 of us, and we all still keep in contact. We're all still like in a little group. Her coaching collective is called Just a Wild Thought Coaching Collective. She's a fantastic resource. That's career counseling, outdoor industry specific, which truly I do not think I would be in the position I am today without like her knocking my imposter syndrome to the curb. Because she really did help me out with like, no, look, this is the stuff that you did and it's good, right? Like, okay, then stand on it. That I needed somebody to tell me that. So that really helped setting my prices and literally everything. And it also helped me feel empowered that when Sawyer was like, we were throwing this job out there, they kind of asked me what I was looking for. And I said, well, I kind of just want freelance right now, like maybe 15 hours a week. And they said, great. And so I was freelance with Sawyer until July of last year. And about 2 months before then, I said, hey, I'm going to go do the long trail, but can I be full time after that? Like, I think all of this really works well. And they said, yeah. And so now I'm full time and feeling, I'm so glad I didn't feel pressured into like being full time right away. Like the ills of capitalism that I've experienced in my life, I feel like don't necessarily transfer into the outdoor industry for me personally. And I know it really impacts a lot of other people in the outdoor industry. Like you said, guides, and like you're assumed that you're doing your dream job and therefore like you shouldn't get paid a reasonable amount. I don't know. It's a silly misconception, but I like that groups like you mentioned, Basecamp, are really trying to change that.
That's Facebook?
Basecamp Outdoor Jobs. Yep. They have a website. They have a Facebook group, which is what I always recommend people go to. It's a really good place to just keep a finger on the pulse of the industry, interact with people, network. That's where I found out about the Basecamp boot camp. They also have resources like a freelance resource guide where they say, like, you insert your information and you say, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I charge for this. And so you can kind of get a gauge on what other people are charging in the industry with, 10 years of experience, 5 years of experience, that kind of thing. And then what specifically they're doing, writing blogs, website design, accounting, like all of these things can be outdoors. So, all of those different, they have so many resources for people, even just like guides or retail employees at an outdoor shop. Like those are all definitely very valid. And they're also very, very good about moderating the posts that go on there.
Now that you're full-time, how much freelance are you doing?
Not much. I really prioritize the Sawyer stuff just because clearly. And the freelance stuff will always come second now, just because that's what I feel like is right. But at the same time, I'm taking on projects with the bandwidth that I have. So like Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Christine Reed edited this book, put all these short stories together from 26 women plus in the outdoors, and I'm one of the 26. I wrote a short story about getting my period the first week on the Appalachian Trail, the first 2 weeks. And I think it's hilarious. That's my first like in print published piece. And also it's very cool. Like I saw her pitch on Basecamp for that, and I said, I want to be a part of that project. And so Sawyer's totally fine with whatever freelance I want to pick up outside of that, which is very awesome. And I really do I realize how much impact my work with Sawyer has compared to like me personally sharing something, because Sawyer has all of this like all around the world clean water project backing. So that has been very cool to like expand my skill set into. So that's kind of where my head's been at lately.
This is a good spot to segue because we do have to hit the road soon.
Yeah, we got to see people shove butter in their face.
Yes. But I think this is a really good spot to segue. And one thing that we consistently see with Sawyer is they're very modest about what they do, how much they donate, like just everything that goes on behind. If you were just at REI looking at 2 water filters, comparing them, you would never know everything Sawyer does. But as you're not Travis, and
they kind of hired me to gloat on Sawyer.
Can you take a minute to just like give the listener like the background of what is so good about Sawyer so that they can tell that when we say this stuff, it's not just because it's a paid ad?
I would love to. Sawyer's been around since 1984, and they've been doing international clean water projects since 2008. So they've been doing them for a very long time. They have over 140 charity partners in over 80 countries across the world, doing transformational clean water programs in communities where one Sawyer filter can last a family of 6 for over a decade. And we're still seeing these filters, like the first ones that were put in Honduras in 2008. We're still seeing that they are in effect today and effective for that family.
Wow.
Because they take care of it.
Yeah.
All of our clean water transformational programs come with like maintenance classes and lots of education. They have follow-ups afterwards. They're very data supported. So we really make sure, are we addressing a bacterial protozoic, concern that we are going to fix with this filter? We really make sure that we are a good fit for the community. And it's amazing the results that it can have. In Liberia, I guess our rule of thumb is there's a 90% diarrhea reduction in communities where Sawyer filters have like a transformational clean water program. And then in addition to those, there's disaster relief, which happens all over the world, like the floods in Brazil right now. We have active partners working in the Rio Grande flooding, and Puerto Rico years ago in the hurricane. I got to interview somebody from Team Rubicon who got to respond with Sawyer filters to that disaster. So yeah, lots of different beats, but clean water is really I would say I had no idea, but it was just something it was right in front of me, and now I get to actually interact with on a daily basis, like all of these things that Sawyer does.
You mentioned Liberia, and I'm not sure if this was the place or not, but talking about how much Sawyer does for communities in providing access to clean water, there was a really cool map that they posted that showed how many filters they had donated to a country over time. Do you know what I'm talking about? Can you walk me through that?
I do think it was Liberia. I don't know enough about that specific one to walk you through that. I know a lot about the Marshall Islands.
Tell me about that one then.
Yeah, totally. The Marshall Islands just achieved border-to-border clean water last July, like about a year ago. And they have, so typically Sawyer makes the filter. We don't have a huge team. We're based in Safety Harbor. It is a family-owned company. Travis, who you've had on before, is the son of the owner, and him and the company both turned 40 this year.
Yeah,
Happy birthday.
He's the best thing that came, the second best thing that came out of 1984. That's what he told us.
I got what we were talking
Marshall
about.
Islands.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the Marshall Islands, about 5 years ago, they have this women-led group organization that works with the Ministry of Health in the Marshall Islands. It's like atolls. It's all women, it's all volunteers, and they took care of distributing all of the filters and doing all of the training. So it's, in the Malagasy, and, it's people in their own communities. It's really a big part of the programs, but, the Marshall Islands are incredibly unique. They started with the most vulnerable of their communities. So they started on the outer islands and worked their way in, so that people that truly have no access, the most vulnerable, especially with climate change as a threat to the islands. And then they went into the country, or into Maduro, the capital and everything. I think the last person to get a Sawyer filter in the Marshall Islands was the ex-president, the former president. And that's just symbolically, I think their views on community and taking care of one another and it all being women-based was so inspiring. And the Marshall Islands now, KEO, Cora and Okrani is the name of the charity group that does all that in the Marshall Islands. They're actually working with a lot of other islands that are kind of, New Zealand area, Philippine area, to do Sawyer water programs there. And they're talking about how you can work with the Ministry of Health of the government and kind of being Sawyer champions now, trying to help other people, even though they've already helped their country. It's incredibly inspiring.
Yeah. Is there a big picture goal with Sawyer and the Clean Water Initiative? Is it to get clean water across the world? Is that even a realistic, feasible thing?
# clean water for all.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the goal. So very specifically, the United Nations has I want to say 9 different sustainability goals. And number 6 is clean water. And they have some very specific guidelines for what clean water access means. So that has to do with not walking more than 15 minutes one way to access a clean source. Having a clean source that isn't going to give you diarrhea and make you sick. So we base all of our trainings and stuff off of getting to that number 6 and like prioritize places that we need to be in, groups that we're working with based on like who are we really helping, like who's actually getting a true life-changing like impact from this. I can't remember where I was going with that.
It's good because we got to feed some butter to hikers.
Yeah. We do got to feed some butter hikers.
You got to get back to your tent as well. So,
totally.
Katie, where should people go to keep up with you, Sawyer, all the good stuff?
Yeah, I'm at Oats Hikes on Instagram. I'm oatshikes.com. I just keep everything there that I put on other websites too. It's just in one spot. And check out Sawyer. Every product purchase goes towards this clean water work. 90% of profits that Sawyer gets go to these clean water projects, whether it's for the research or specifically donating to charity partners or helping with the training programs, GIS, all of that. 90% of profits. So please stay safe from the bugs. We'll filter your water, all that good stuff. If you need any bag flushing tips, you know where to find me. I'm in the DMs.
Yeah, awesome. Katie, you're dynamo. You're the best. Thank you for all your good work with the trek for the outdoor industry with Sawyer, everything. And thank you for joining us here on Backpacker Radio.
Thanks, y'all. Great to be here.
To the Trek propaganda portion of today's show. This one is from a name you've been hearing quite a bit on the podcast of late. He was the inspiration for the butter eating contest at Trail Days this year, which was a big hit. This is, of course, Moose Juice, and the piece is Why I Always Carry a Bear Canister When Through Hiking. If you want to hear a very compelling pitch on why you should carry a bear canister while through hiking, definitely check out this piece. I think this is the direction that we're going in a lot of trails, especially a trail like the Appalachian Trail. So definitely head to the show notes and check that one out.
Another Moose Juice plug and also past guest plug. What are they up to now? What do we call that segment?
Plug me.
Quadzilla is doing the AT right now.
Yes.
He posted a photo today, and his quads have quads. It is. Have you seen this photo of him at the 100-mile mark?
I've noticed every photo that he posts.
No, this one is extra quaddy.
Yeah.
Like, he's flexing them.
Yeah.
But Quadzilla is doing the AT, and he's doing it on $1,000 budget, which is kind of interesting. He's putting all his little tallies of how much he's spending as he goes. But when he posted his last video, he had gone through Neil Gap and partook in the pizza that you can eat there. And his was Trail Magic, because you can leave Trail Magic and like buy ahead a pizza for a guest or for a customer. And hiker, buy ahead a pizza for a hiker. The words are there somewhere. And the one that he got was from Moose Juice.
Oh, no way.
So Moose Juice got Quadzilla a pizza from Neil Gap. It was on a Post-it note.
Fuck yeah.
And I know all this because I follow him on Instagram.
Let's go. You guys should definitely be following Quadzilla on Instagram.
It's quad traps, thirst traps, quads, all of it. I'm going to show you
Those
it.
legs are worth the price of admission. I think I've seen it, but I'm not going to turn you down from showing me it again.
You just want to. I don't want to ask Meta about this. Oh my God.
Call back if you've listened to the previous episode. Sean hates AI.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. No, those are juicy boys. Well done, Quadzilla.
I didn't even know a leg could be that shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good job, Quadzilla.
Can only imagine what they're going to look like at the end of the AT again. All right. Enough body. What's the reverse of shaming?
Drooling.
Yeah. Enough of that. Let's get to today's question of the day. This is definitely a you question.
Yeah. How long would you watch a loading screen before aborting all the info you entered and work you did and progress you made to start over?
I'm not a patient person.
But what if you spent a lot of time on your entries?
It depends on how important the thing is, or I'd say the most important thing is if the screen's giving you like a please wait a couple minutes, this could take a while. Like if it's prepping you that it could take a long time, definitely going to be a little bit more patient. But without that, I think the more likely scenario for me is if this is happening online, that I'm going to open up a new tab and I'm just going to forget about it. And then eventually the page is just going to, it's going to be like, you've been logged out due to inactivity. That's the more likely thing for me. ADHD will ruin it.
Fair.
What about?
I wish I could remember what triggered this thought.
Yeah.
I was really mad at something, and it was this scenario.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was. I just remember I'd worked so hard on everything I typed in, and it was one of those wheels that spins, and it was spinning, but it never stopped spinning. And I can't remember if I waited.
Yeah.
But I got to the point where when I wanted to close out of it, instead I sent this text to the group, and I said, how long would you wait?
Yeah. It's like when you're waiting on hold on the phone for a long time, and then when it finally gets through, it just hangs up. That's the thing that pisses me off most in life. I can think of few things that make me more irate than waiting on hold for a long time and then getting hung up on. That's like, if there's a wall around me, I might punch it.
Have you ever heard the rumor that they have software that tracks how much you're cursing, and the angrier you are, the faster you get a customer service representative?
Oh, like pushing the elevator button a lot of times, it's going to come faster, but
yeah,
it actually does?
It was like something I learned growing up, and not from my parents. It was just word on the street, was that they could track curse words, and the more curse words you said, the faster they'd put you through to someone because they could tell you were angry.
Yeah.
I have no legitimate sources to back this up.
Sure.
I just know that I've gone through phases of life where I've been on hold, just like repeating curse words as fast as I can, hoping that it speeds up the process.
Should we help out the listener right now, assuming that they're on hold? They could just put the phone up to whatever speaker's playing us.
Yeah, go on.
Fuck.
Go on.
Piss.
Go on.
You.
Me?
You have to say something.
Shit.
Oh, taunts. Jesus.
I know.
This is a podcast.
I know.
This isn't a locker room.
I'm a naughty girl.
All right. Well, I guess let's move on to the next one since
Okay.
Sean's ruined that. Yeah, let's do gross thing of the week, terrifying thing of the week, unfortunate thing of the week.
Scary thing of the week.
So I walk out my front door, I think to water some plants, and literally my first step onto the front, like, welcome mat area, I feel something wrong, and immediately I see a giant snake slither up like vertically in front of me, and it's so large that I'm positive it is a rattlesnake. I don't think I relayed this detail when I texted you guys. I was barefoot.
Ugh, you did not relay that.
It was on the heel of my foot too.
I would cut my foot off.
It wasn't like my toenail or like the back end of the heel. It was like I stepped flush on this thing. I stepped on it so hard that once I got my bearings and I realized this thing wasn't rattling at me, I actually did feel a little bit bad for the snake because I thought, like, did I just kill this thing?
You said it was 5 feet long, didn't you?
It was a big ass snake, but I'm walking at a pace and with all of my body weight immediately down on like the thickest part of a large snake's
probably like
body.
a memory foam where it like squishes little.
Immediately I knew what it was. Like I said, it jumped vertically in front of me. It was startled. It was trying to get away, and it was so panicked that it, like, as it was trying to get away, it got stuck behind like a pot and like just kind of hung out there for a while.
No.
Like I said, my initial instinct was that it was a rattlesnake because
My initial instinct would be to burn my house down.
Jenna got mad at me that I didn't scream louder. My initial reaction wasn't alarming enough for her.
I'm mad at you that your Ring camera didn't capture it. How did it not capture this?
No, I don't know. But we have the audio of the aftermath of Jenna being like, "No, where is this thing? No."
Play it.
Oh God, it's gonna take me a second to find it.
I'll talk.
We can't. It's just,
Damn it.
we're recording.
Should I text Jenna?
We'll include it in the Patreon. But yeah, I felt bad for it. So this thing was a bull snake. I don't know if you know this about bull snakes, but their coloring is the exact same, or not the exact same, but very similar to rattlesnakes.
Oh, I thought they were black.
No, this one
Can
has.
you show me a picture? I don't want to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks exactly like a rattlesnake. They do that to, I guess, as a defense mechanism.
I'm like sitting here dry gagging.
Yeah, it was very terrifying.
You can plug the YouTube here. I don't like.
Yeah. We are guessing that potentially it was there because in the wreath on our front door, there's a bird's nest with some recently hatched eggs.
That's why it's there.
Yeah, I don't know if they can smell it or hear it or what.
They got those little smelly tongues.
Yeah. So he was just hanging out waiting for a recently cracked egg to drop and get a free snack, but instead he got Zach's full weight stepping down
barefoot.
on him. Yeah.
Oh my God, I hate that.
Yeah. So now Jenna's going overboard. She's like, we're putting chicken wire
yes.
over all of our friends.
Grenades, mines.
She bought some product called Snake Be Gone, which I'm sure is snake oil, no pun intended, or I guess pun. But yeah, now she's terrified. But bull snakes are fine. They do bite. They will bite you.
Are fine? It was on your front door.
Yeah, but they're not aggressive to my understanding. It bites, but it's not poisonous. I think we probably talked about this in the snake episode and I forgot. But it's not a rattlesnake. That was the takeaway thing, because if that was a rattlesnake, I'd be shaken to the core. Not for me, but I've got 3 young kids in that house, and like if they stumbled out and
Yeah, but if a bull snake could do it, a rattlesnake could too.
yeah, so I guess it's good to have bull snakes because they're better hunters than rattlesnakes, so they kind of like crowd them out in territory. So where there are bulls, they're less likely to be rattlers. I don't know. Could be snake misinformation.
Didn't we learn that chickens eat snakes, or did we learn that snakes eat I think chickens eat snakes.
We learned that foxes eat snakes.
We did.
Yeah.
But I think you should get chickens. Because I think
I'm telling you, a chicken's not going to eat this thing.
But it might scare them away.
Yeah, potentially.
Or be a decoy.
Yeah.
If snakes eat chickens and I'm wrong about chickens eating snakes, then the snakes will be found near the chickens and not near the front door.
Maybe we get a mongoose or a badger. I'm a badger.
You are a badger.
Maybe I should eat this thing.
Yeah, maybe you stepped on it or the wrong part. You should have gone mouth first.
Yeah. But yeah, no.
Ew.
Fuck that incident very much right in his face. Not the incident, not the snake. All right, next segment.
I'm still like queasy.
Yeah. It was.
I keep thinking about the squish of the heel on it and the realization in that moment, and I just like cannot.
It's funny because it was a little bit later in the day. I was feeling very tired, and then as soon as that happened, that was the closest I think I've ever been to a heart attack. It was just like my initial instinct is a large snake is coming up and it's a rattlesnake. It's about to bite me, and I just stepped on it.
Where I start to like my brain is not okay is I'm thinking, what would I do? And if I stepped on it and I saw that and I screamed and I jumped back, I'd probably be so scared I'd lose my footing and I'd fall, and then I'd be on the ground next to this thing screaming even more. I think I would go into cardiac arrest.
There was a good chance I was going to injure myself there. I vaguely remember almost spraining my ankle because like as soon as you feel that, you shift your weight in the other direction and you're not prepared to be athletic. I wasn't. Yeah, it was bad.
Did it hang out or did it run?
No, it ran. Like the vertical motion, I think, was it being like, oh, fuck, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, but then it's like lining up with you. It's going eye to eye. And that's scary too.
My thought was it was coming at me, but he was going the opposite direction. He was trying to get out of Dodge.
Okay, let's move on. I hate this.
Yeah. It's been a minute since we've done an update on pooping in the woods.
Yes.
You want to update people?
Yes, we have not given up on this. Our April Fool's dream that is coming alive. We are back into a time where both of us have time to work on this. And so we've been making some moves, which is great because we've established a couple things. We've tweaked a couple things. We've put together a good flow for things. But we just want to share some progress with you guys. So if you did submit a Pooping in the Woods story, you know that we haven't forgotten about it and we haven't just like lost interest or, veered to a new hyperfixation.
Yeah. I get some rough bullets is I think we found an initial editor. We are currently weighing all of our options regarding going the traditional publishing route versus self-publishing, which is interesting because we both self-published our books and have figured out that process. And when people reach out to me about trying to find a traditional publisher versus self-publishing, I generally nudge them in the direction of going self-publishing because otherwise in most cases you're doing 90% of the work and then they just take a chunk of the money. Why not just do it all yourself and make the money? But I think that this has potential, so we're potentially knocking on the doors of some major publishers.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. Just to be able to say we've been traditionally published. We've talked about this, but in my brain, I like the idea of going into a bookstore and seeing your book there and like having a publisher name on it. Not from experience because I self-published, but I think that would be cool. And this would be a really funny one to have it with because it's just such a funny concept.
Could you imagine our idiot asses being on like the Today Show talking about poop stories?
Literally, the potential is so freaking funny.
Yeah.
So we're working on that. And while we're working on it, one last thing is we have not closed the submission doc. It's still in our Instagram bio link tree, and it's going to be on the show notes here because we're talking about it. If you are hiking a trail this year and you all of a sudden have a new poop story that is exceptional and you want to submit it, we technically aren't taking submissions anymore, but we're not so far into the process that we're not open to reading something new. So if you have one you think is good and you want us to consider it, head to that form. It's not too late with an asterisk.
Yeah. That being said, we have some awesome stories.
Yeah, we've got some really good ones.
I think we're in a good place as is, but
Yeah.
Chance is absolutely right that as long as the door is open and you've got an epic story and you want to be included in potentially an awesome project, please hit us up. Okay, Triple Crown. This is the Triple Crown of conversations you don't get into on trail. You said you wanted to go first.
Yes.
I know what you're going to say.
Politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one wants to talk about politics on trail.
Yeah. I should preface this by saying these are conversations you shouldn't get in on trail. I'm sure they happen on trail,
Yeah.
obviously.
I mean, I don't really want to talk about politics anywhere.
Yeah.
Because I think that no one goes into a talk about politics looking to change their opinion.
No.
They go into a talk about politics looking to change the other person's opinion. And when you have two people that aren't looking to modify their stances but are both looking to change the other person's, there's just no productive outcome for that.
Yeah. And I think this is a Keanu Reeves quote, but he now never disagrees with anything anyone says. He's like, if you say that 1 + 1 = 5, good on you. I think that's a really good way to go about life. And if you bring up politics on trail around me, that's probably be like, yeah, cool. You should get rid of those people. Like, it's not worth engaging that debate.
Yeah, I'm just like, I think it's perfectly okay to say, like, I don't spend enough time reading about this to give you an informed answer.
Just pretend like you don't speak English.
And if you're in the middle of a trail, like, you're probably not constantly reading the news.
Yeah.
So that's a perfectly safe answer to give.
No hablo. Okay, you took the obvious one.
Yep.
I'm going to go with what you do for a living.
Really?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't want to be reminded of their non-trail life, and I think a certain subsection of people like what they do, but the majority of people, especially out on a 6-month through hike, are at sometimes a transitory period in their lives, and they're not stoked to be talking about their 9-to-5s. So that I'm always happy to talk about the trek. Don't get me wrong.
Zach's ashamed.
Yeah, I'm very ashamed of my
embarrassed of
career,
us.
but I don't ever bring it up because I don't want to talk about it. Like, I don't want to bring it up to people. I don't know if it seems strange in the context of backpacking, but mostly I don't bring it up because I've realized, or I've learned, that not everyone is stoked on talking about their careers. If you are and you want to talk about it, bring it up. Happy to have the conversation, but I feel like sometimes you're prodding on a sensitive subject for people.
Yeah, I could see it, like, if you don't, and this was me on the AT, I didn't have a job lined up for when I got back. I just knew I didn't like what I was doing and didn't know what to do because I was in graphic design. I had a job that was listed as Photoshop. It ended up being entirely coding. I was not being paid for the work I was doing properly. I was being paid for a Photoshopper, and all the other graphic design jobs I was applying to were just so hard to even get an interview with.
Yeah.
And so it felt very bleak for my future in terms of I either have to stay in this job that is vastly underpaid and not in the scope of work I was led to believe it was, or just never have a job in my field again.
Yeah.
So I could see that bringing anxiety.
Yeah.
If you're like, hey, what do you do? And I'm like, failing.
Yeah. No,
You know?
I've learned firsthand that a lot of people don't like their careers, and I think taking them away from the trail mentally is not the thing that I want to do. If you want to, I've met people who have very interesting careers as well, so I will leave that up to you to bring it up, but I'm not going to be the one prodding. My next one is, this isn't necessarily because it's taboo. I just feel like it's a thing that doesn't happen, and what makes through hiking so wonderful, that's small talk. I feel like a small talk conversation, maybe sometimes that's the icebreaker to get the ball rolling a little bit, but the thing that is nice about through hiking is that you're able to get into more meaningful or fun or interesting conversations, and you can skip the weather. Like, obviously everyone's engaging with the weather on a pretty intimate level, but the small things that don't really matter, or like very superficial conversations, fade very quickly, and that's what I like about through hiking.
Yeah, I think that's part of why I keep my eyes on the ground when I'm walking past people, or I keep my headphones in even when nothing's playing, because for me, I really broach the line of having enough energy to get through a day with the miles I push myself to do, and it takes a lot of energy for me to have a conversation. And in my mind, if I'm never going to see you again, or probably won't see you again, why spend some of that energy in the bank on a small talk conversation when I need it to get through the day with enough energy to approach the next day.
Sure.
But how do you just jump into big talk?
I just feel like this small talk fades quickly. It's not necessarily that there isn't small talk. It's just that you're in a more comfortable, intimate environment where you can like be like, do either of us actually care about the subject matter? Let's talk about politics. No.
Yeah. What is like a bigger topic that you can bring up that isn't small talk?
I think it's usually something fun. In my experience, it's like a little bit more jovial. You can have jokes and not necessarily like a conversation to have like in a grocery store checkout line is like, you're not going to make any attempt to get to know that person. I think in the context of thru hiking, you actually want to get to know who that person is.
So give me an example question.
It would just depend on the person, honestly. If it was somebody like Horsepower, I could probably gather that he's into sports and we're going to be talking about sports quickly. Maybe for some people that is small talk if they don't actually care about sports, but I do, he does, and I think we'd be off to the races pretty quickly.
Okay, fair. My next one, I wrote them down and I don't remember them. Unsolicitedly telling someone how much is left in the climb. I think those conversations where you see someone coming towards you and you don't ask and they say you're almost at the top, or it's another 0.2 or something, they're just ballparking and you didn't ask, those are conversations I never want to have.
But what if they are genuinely very close?
That's fine, but I might be battling, like in my head when I'm going up a climb, sometimes I'm counting to 10 for 10 steps just to see if I can get to those 10 before stopping to catch my breath again. And sometimes I'm taking 10 steps, sitting, counting to 20, standing, taking 10 steps, and doing stuff like that because my asthma is acting up and I need my like breathing to regulate. And if you tell me it's 0.2 and in my brain I had rationed it was probably 0.1, to you that's still very close. But to me, that just ruined my entire afternoon. So very close is a very objective term based on what you think very close is. And if I'm battling every footstep, I don't care what number you're telling me, it's too far. And I did not ask.
Yeah. Cool. That's fair.
Thanks. Oh, my third one. Ooh, telling fun facts about where you are that aren't actually fun but are kind of scary or morbid. For example, on the AT, we got to this one kind of creepy looking shelter. It was a very foggy, misty day. It was spooky vibes all around. And someone decided to bring up, this isn't someone in our trail family, this is just like someone, stranger, that was like, hey, did you know that a girl died here and this place is supposedly haunted? And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, she woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom and apparently got possessed and walked off that cliff right behind the shelter.
I feel like you, the history buff, would love that.
I would, if I'm not presently there in spooky environment.
Yeah.
Because what we did to block out the rain was we hung our Tyveks across the shelter to prevent like wind, fog, whatever. But now we're in this creepy little closed-in, haunted shelter, and I did wake up in the middle of the night having to pee. Contemplated just peeing on the shelter floor with a full shelter because I'm just like, I'm too scared to go outside. What if I get possessed and walk off the cliff? And
do you believe in ghosts?
I don't not.
So yes.
I mean, I haven't seen. We've gone through this. I haven't seen. I saw a blue light on the road once, but I was severely underslept.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's room to play there. But I'm willing to leave an opening for spooky shit to happen. Okay. And so I had to leave the shelter that night because I wasn't going to pee on the shelter floor. And just the entire time I was outside, I was terrified. The entire time I got back in, I was terrified. I didn't sleep well. I never asked this stranger to tell me that fact. And I just think if you are at the place where something super scary has happened, maybe don't just tell the people with you that you don't know about the scary things. Yeah. Like, know your audience, and you don't know me, so you don't know how scared I get.
I'm trying to find this. I recently stumbled on the Supernatural. I think it was the Supernatural subreddit, and someone had posted a picture of apparently it was like a ghost in the background. Just like there's a kid sitting in a chair.
Could be Photoshop.
could be anything.
I can Photoshop
What-
a lot of things.
Yeah, of course. What I loved is all the comments and people speaking so matter-of-factly about like, oh, this person's aura is so strong that it broke through the like.
Yeah, if you
people
get
who
like
are,
a glow on your
scientists about this
photo,
stuff.
it's like an orb.
This was like the outline of a person. Yeah, I mean, until I have a ghost encounter, I'm firmly in the no camp because it doesn't.
Yeah.
I think people see what they want to see.
Well, I also think that people like fucking with people. And in the Photoshop, quotes, job I had, part of the job when I wasn't coding was mocking up these digital directories into building spaces. So the sales reps would send me a building space with an elevator that has a big plant in front of it. And they're like, hey, can you get rid of this plant? And can you put this directory there? It's this size. It has to be to scale. And I'd send them back a photo where you would never know a plant was there. And the directory would look real. Yeah. And if I can do that, how easy is it to put a semi-transparent face in the background of a photo and just wait for someone to notice it?
Yeah.
So
I also got it wrong. It's paranormal. It was the subreddit, and I want to find this photo because I'm curious to see if you think it's spooky. But what I got a big.
I think all photos are fake.
Yeah.
Not all photos. That's a statement to clip. I don't think all photos are
photos
fake.
and birds.
I just think all paranormal photos are fake.
Yeah. So you don't believe in ghosts.
I don't know, but like a ghost could show. I mean, like neither did Scrooge.
Yeah.
You know, and then he saw 3.
Damn, I wish I could find this one. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, look, our mailbag has the word "re Chauncey's ghost." So maybe I do believe in ghosts, and I just don't remember.
Forgot about my affinity for ghosts. Do I have one last one?
I think
so. My last pick for this is what's your name? Specifically, not what your trail name is, but what's your off-trail name?
Okay.
I think it's right in line with the career thing. I think a lot of people embrace the anonymity of being on trail and the ability to create a new persona, and it feels just a little invasive. I think maybe once you get to know someone very well, you've hiked with them for weeks or whatever it is, or social media obviously bridges that gap, but that's not a conversation that you're having quickly.
No, I actually don't know some of my closest hiking friends' names
Yeah.
without thinking heavily on it.
Yeah.
Like if I were, oh, okay. See, what's Ziplock's name? I don't know. Then I just remembered. Or I was having trouble the other day, not the other day, but the last time my brain recalls, thinking of Deadpool's actual name to the point that I had to text him. I was like, what's your name?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. If my trail name was like Wildflower or some shit, and someone was like, what's your name? And I said Wildflower, and they're like, no.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Yeah.
I'd be like sleeping 20 miles away from you is my name.
Yeah, yeah. So I think social media is oftentimes the bridge for people is you find someone's handle and then you get that information, but it's nice to not know that. Honorable mentions?
Telling someone about your sketchy past.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we're just chatting and I'm like, yeah, this one time when I was in prison for killing a person.
Yeah, you should leave. Don't leave your murders out of the.
Yeah, don't tell.
Topics of conversations. I think this is right in line with politics, but religion.
Yeah, I would also say like if you have any just really wrong takes on things, like in the ground of sexist, racist, the bad stuff.
Yeah, but those are the people that usually like to share.
Yeah, those are usually the most vocal, but just don't.
Yeah. And I mentioned asking people what they are not talking about what someone does for a living. I think that's like kind of referencing someone's past usually. I think what's your plan for after the trail can also be a sort of a sensitive subject because a lot of people don't want to think about that. People want to just be present on trail, and taking them away from that space is can potentially be dicey.
Yeah.
Cool. Where's the next one? Got a voicemail.
Yep.
Hey, Badger and Chance. Calling from Washington State with a little PSA. Woke up this morning after going on a hike yesterday and found 2 ticks embedded in my back. So thank you to the podcast for teaching me how dangerous that can be so I could go get them extracted immediately. But just a little PSA to my Washingtonians because the doctors told me that apparently it's becoming much more widespread here. So cover up, take all your precautions because that shit was nasty. Okay, bye.
Permethrin.
Yeah, another shout out to today's title sponsor is Permethrin. All of your clothing and your gear and also hope a little bit.
Yeah, and thank you to this person for giving me immense paranoia. I was weeding the garden 2 days ago and stood in front of the mirror before I showered just looking at my back because I remember she said she had them in her back.
Yeah.
And so I was doing all kinds of bends naked.
We met a fella and a Trek contributor at Trail Days whose trail name was Alpha Gal because he got Alpha Gal, which is the syndrome from a tick, the Lone Star tick, I believe, that makes you allergic to red meat.
That's so sad.
Yeah, and he said he was allergic to a ton of food, but being like violently allergic to meat, I'm sure a vegan is happy about that, but that would be pretty terrible for me.
Here's a question a vegan would not be happy about, but could we do a raw meat eating contest?
I would not advise it.
Like a red meat? Could you get sick from that?
Certainly, I think you can get sick from any raw meat.
We're not doing chicken.
Yeah, but you can still get worms and stuff like that.
Okay, no, we don't do that.
But that is a huge part of Wisconsin culture. Is I forget the dish, but it's just like bread, mayonnaise, and raw chuck. Me Googling. Cannibal sandwich.
Ew.
AKA the raw meat sandwich.
Yeah, we'll stick to butter.
An appetizer of raw lean ground beef served on bread.
An appetizer?
Yeah, especially with rye cocktail bread with sliced onion, salt, and pepper. Got most of that right. Also known as tiger meat, steak tartare, or simply raw beef and onions. These sandwiches...
Steak tartare.
Yeah, I guess now that I think about it, I have probably... Maybe you just have to ensure that you're getting really high quality meat, and I'm guessing like the stuff that you get from a grocery store.
Yeah, the stuff you get at the Trek booth would not be that.
No, yeah, we're not doing any raw meat sandwiches at Trail Days anytime soon. So, I would advise you to not do that.
Get your meat elsewhere.
Yeah.
Cool.
What do we have next? Mailbag.
A pleasure to revisit the good old Foothills Trail. It's a keeper. A couple thoughts. The best time to hike is definitely, in stars, spring and fall because it gets insanely hot, parentheses, like worse than the southern AT, in the summer months. Also, buggier. Chaunce's Ghost. May not exactly be ghostly, but if you want to give yourself a few vicarious shivers on the Foothills Trail, going eastbound, Ebo, you soon arrive at the beautiful Chattooga River. The river was used to film some scenes from the harrowing 1972 movie Deliverance, based on the 1970 novel by the famous poet James Dickey. If you don't know the book or movie, you might not want to experience them before tackling the Foothills Trail. The story involves 4 city men who go to paddle a whitewater river in northern Georgia before it is consumed by waters of a new dam, which is also forcing backwoods residents to relocate because their towns will also be destroyed. If you don't know the story, suffice to say that things do not go as planned for our city slickers. Ahem. Although the novel/movie are not based specifically on Lake Jocassee, it also drowns several communities. Anglers who have sonar on their boats can still make out the outlines of churches, buildings, trees, ... One of my true phobias is human things, bodies, buildings, cars, etc., covered by deep, dark water. Brr. Of the Foothills Trail, I like to say it's a perfect mini-me of the Southern AT. If anyone is pondering starting the AT but isn't sure if they'll like it, they could do no better than to do an Ebo hike on the Foothills Trail to get a taste. P.S. It also intersects with the Mountains to Sea Trail/route from Pony.
Our guy.
I will also say you don't have to go to Lake Jocassee to find drowned communities. Fontana Dam. Lake Fontana has buried communities underneath it, so just think about that when you're looking off the dam.
Also call back to the Mountains to Sea Trail, which Oats talks about kind of in depth.
Yep.
Good stuff. This is what I was humming at. Oh, stop that.
Oh my God, are we going to go get our assholes waxed together? Still open to it. It's pool season. And you didn't do it until I came in with a fat bag of burgers.
Okay.
What is that from? What didn't you do?
Why do you expect me to remember this
When
stuff?
did I bring a fat bag of burgers?
Feels like a thing you do.
I know, but I need Paulie, tell me what I did. I am a piece of trash. Amen.
5-star reviews. This one is from Beautiful D. 100 out of 5. Enjoy listening and learning new things about trails, gear, and life. Love how the hosts keep it real. A must listen on my hour drive in or back from work. And another one. You want to take this one?
Love the podcast. From Hunter is awesome. The podcast is amazing. Keep it up. I'm newer to the hiking world and love hearing all the stories from y'all and the guests to the show.
If you guys want to hear your reviews read on this podcast, head on over to Apple and leave us any number of stars, just not 1, 2, 3, or 4. A big... Oh, wait, and the sticker code?
Send us a screenshot of your 5-star review and send it to the podcast@thetrek.co. Include your email just to limit the back, or include your address just to limit the back and forth, and we will send you a sticker if you are in the contiguous U.S.
Yeah. In Hawaii and Alaska.
Will we do Hawaii and Alaska?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are cheap too.
If you're in the U.S.
And whatever the military addresses are, that works too.
Yes, our territories.
Yeah. Big shout out to today's title sponsor, Sawyer Products. Want to give another plug for their picaridin. Again, if you guys are heading into heavy bug territory and we're getting to that time of the year, cannot highly recommend picaridin enough. If you're in very dense mosquito territory, DEET is what you need, but for anything that's less than 11 out of 10 mosquitoes, picaridin is always my go-to. I've had it in a handful of scenarios where the natural stuff was not nearly doing the trick, and it saved my life. I take it with me on every single backpacking trip. You just never know when bugs are going to surface. This is especially true in the summer, and I'm talking about backpacking out west, out east. I feel like it's got a longer season, but yeah, bugs can ruin your time, and picaridin can save your hike.
Yeah, and not even just hiking. I mentioned in the last episode how I keep one on my table outside for when we have people over at night outdoors, but I also keep a can of the spray in my car, and that has been literally like maybe the life of the party at certain things, because it is car camping season, and I'm a lazy piece of shit who sometimes likes to just go sleep next to my car and not hike and do any work. And when I do that and everyone is starting to get bit and they're looking for bug spray and I pull out that can of picaridin spray, I'm the life of the party. And I also am not mad at myself for forgetting it. So that's another place that I keep a can. I've got several cans and they're all in different spots. But car camping, just have one in your car, and then you don't need to remember to pack it. And then you get somewhere and you realize, oh, it's buggy. I didn't think about this beforehand. Look under my seat. It has come in handy more times than I could say.
Yeah, you can be the hero for sure.
Yes.
And you can find Sawyer's products at every major retailer except for Walmart.
Fuck Walmart.
Yeah, apparently they dropped them recently. So if you're in a Walmart and you're looking for Sawyer stuff, you probably won't find it. But definitely make a point to let them know that you want them to carry their stuff.
Yeah. If you need any encouragement for why, listen to the end of Katie's episode. If you for some reason skipped that and just came here, go back.
Yeah.
She tells about some of the current missions that Sawyer is doing in terms of providing clean water and like how much of an impact that has. They are just a great company in general. They donate 90% of their profits to charity. That is a very selfless thing to do for a company owner. Or a company in general. And so for Walmart to overlook all of that and drop them because a different brand wanted like a monopoly on the bug space is poo-poo bananas. And everyone should let Walmart know that.
Yeah. So, thank you, Sawyer. You guys are good people.
Yeah.
A super big thank you to our Chuck Norris Award winners on Patreon. That is Alex and Misty with Navigators Crafting, Andrew, Austin McDaniel, Austin Ford, Brad and Blair from 13 Adventures, Brent Stenberg, Brian Alsop,
Fables,
Christopher Marshburn, Coach from Marion Outdoors, Dane,
Ish,
Derek Cook, Eric Casper,
The Friendly Ghost,
Eric Hoffman, Greg Knight, Greg McDaniel,
maybe I heard his name,
Haley Buckingham,
Dallas,
Jason Snaler,
barely know her,
Liz Seeger, Patrick Ciencialo, Sawyer Products, Spam, Timothy Hahn,
Solo,
and Tracy Trigger. You can follow us at Backpacker Radio on Instagram and TikTok, at Backpacker Pod on X, Facebook.com/Backpacker Radio. You can follow Chance.
You can find me on Instagram at Juliana_Chauncey. I am posting videos of the Ozark Highlands Trail and Foothills Trail on YouTube at Juliana Chauncey. And you can get Hiking from Home, a long-distance hiking guide for family and friends on Amazon.
I have been sharing my Denver orbital hike on my personal Instagram reluctantly.
The stories have been good.
Yeah, I guess, whatever.
Except for the one that you said you were going to give everyone my cell phone number today.
I was just riffing. I'm like, if somebody wants to do this, it would be nice for me to offer the shuttle, but I'm not going to do that.
I was watching that story, and I'm like, in no world is Zach just offering the masses a shuttle.
Chance's phone number is 867-5309.
Do you know that got us partially blocked on YouTube for that episode?
Because we played the song?
Oh my God, wait, look at this. I took a photo of it. So we played, it was the Triple Crown of songs from like the 80s or something, old songs.
Yeah.
And we had played clips of a lot of them, but it said we were partially blocked. And so I was like, why? And I clicked it, and it lists all these songs. It's like Tub Thumping, okay. Next one, okay. Next one, okay. 8675309, not okay.
Yeah, Tommy Two-Tone is laying down the hammer.
That literally gave me a laugh today.
That's funny. And if you guys want to do me a solid, leave a review of Appalachian Trials and Pacific Crest Trials or my books on Amazon. The reviews are very helpful for getting those in front of the eyes of other prospective readers.
While you're there, I'll take one too.
Subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on YouTube.
Hi, Internet.
What's up, YouTube? And that is it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening, and happy hiking.
Bye.